there guys, so I'm back with another rankings video, and this time I will be doing Studio Ghibli. Now Studio Ghibli has made a major impact on cinema and anime. It made me fall in love with anime really, and it's my second favourite animation studio behind Pixar. So I have been building up for this video for quite a while now, maybe the past 2 or 3 years, because I rewatched them all on Blu-ray, so it's the perfect timing for me. Now before I get started, I just want to go through some ground rules. Number 1, if you disagree with me at any point in the video, just comment down below, but please don't put any nasty comments because I hate getting that kind of stuff. Number 2, there are some films that aren't 100% Studio Ghibli, and that's The Red Turtle and Lupin the Third Castle Cagliostro. Now let's get started. At number 22 is Tales from Earthsea. Yeah, I kind of knew where to put this one on the list because this is a really low point for Studio Ghibli. Now don't get me wrong, it's not 100% bad, it's just really bland, especially with its storytelling. But I will say it has great animation, but every Studio Ghibli has great animation. At number 21 is Ocean Waves. This is the only Ghibli film not to have an English dub version, and that's a real shame because this would have been beneficial for the film. Now don't get me wrong, I love foreign language films, but Ocean Waves to me it's easy to get through, it's watchable, but it's so easy to forget. At number 20 is Only Yesterday. Now I don't mind the typical slice of life movie, and it does have some charming moments to it, but Only Yesterday isn't really that exciting, and the characters are just okay. They're just not that rememberable or relatable. At number 19 is From Up the Poppy Hill. Now, when I was constructing this list, I kind of discovered that my least favourite Studio Ghibli films are kind of the less popular ones. And don't get me wrong, From Up the Poppy Hill is a pleasant film to watch, but it really lacks depth and detail. At number 18 is When Marnie Was There. This is probably the most disappointing film on this list because I fell in love with the trailers. Now in the end, the animation is still gorgeous and it ties together beautifully at the end, but really it kind of lacks depth with its mystery and the pacing was all over the place. At number 17 is My Neighbor Yandaz. Now in terms of animation, it does something different. It has more of a pencil light to it, for better or for worse, and it has some genuine beneath humour to it, like when the boy finds excuses not to play baseball with his father and it's played through jokes. We can all relate that into some way, but My Neighbor Yandaz isn't really for everyone because it does fall flat with its episodes sometimes. Either it's too long or you're just not that invested. At number 16 is Ponyo. This is the only Studio Ghibli film I've ever seen in theatres. Yeah, I'm a massive Ghibli fan, but I've only seen one in theatres. Do you know how hard it is to come by, especially if you want the English dubbed version? Ponyo is a funny one for me really, because on the one hand, it's really odd with its narrative and it can get complicated some ways. On the other hand, I love how Miyazaki has used his ability for these rich worlds, making you believe that the supernatural can become a true reality. And the visuals to it, it's just stunning to watch. At number 15 is The Secret World of Arrietty. In a nutshell, this is really the Burrows in an anime format because it was based on the Burrows of course. But The Secret World of Arrietty really strikes a balance of tenderness and determination, and the theme music by Cecile Corber, I think I'm saying that right, is one of the best character themes across Studio Ghibli. And yes, it's basic with its storytelling and narrative, and it does feel really glued together towards the end because it really lacks that conflict and meaningful of our home is in danger. At number 14 is Laputa Castle in the Sky, the original Studio Ghibli film. And the only complaint I would say is that the characters are sometimes two-dimensional. Apart from that, Laputa Castle in the Sky is such a remarkable, fun adventure film. It has something for everyone. Great music, dazzling features, and Miyazaki's vision of how nature and technology can coexist is just so fascinating and realised. And number 13 is The Cat Returns. Now I do love this film a lot and I would consider it to be top 10 worthy, but there are so many great Ghibli films out there. And I know a lot of people would consider it to be one of the weakest Ghibli films because it's so basic, but to me, less is more. It is such a wonderful fantasy film. It's cute, it's funny, full of likeable characters. And the brisk running time just ensures you a light story that it doesn't overstay its welcome. At number 12 is The Wind Rises, Miyazaki's last film, but the film questions us whether it's worth following our dreams and our desires. and the attention to the detail in every single frame is just beautiful. There's also a love story under the same theme. The film plays out like a dream in Miyazaki's head. At number 11 is Ponpoko. To me, this is the most underrated Studio Ghibli film ever. Who knew a story about these magic raccoon dogs can be so touching, and it's also pretty funny as well. It's so self-aware of its messages, man's destructive power against nature, and it has such a great a cultural significance to it that not other countries would understand, especially raccoons with their magic ball sacks. At number 10 is The Tale of Princess Kaguya. First of all, I love the pencil animation style to it. It really makes the film stand out from the other Studio Ghibli films, and it's just so beautiful to watch. And the film is an honest examination of what makes us happy, and the film ties at the end with this heartfelt and dramatic ending, and it just reminds us how majestic this film can be. At number 9 is Nazca of the Valley of the Wind. Okay, it's not done by Studio Ghibli, but it was done by the same people from Studio Ghibli. Anyway, Nazca of the Valley of the Wind is just so remarkable with its storytelling and animation, considering this was from the 80s, and it really sets up Miyazaki's trademark. Flying machines, strong female characters, conflict, nature. The pacing is such a strong point that leads to such a great ending. At number 8 is Howl's Moving Castle. In a way, this is the Wizard of Oz of Studio Ghibli. Miyazaki's imagination really shines throughout this film. The concepts, the characters, the attention of detail, especially the moving castle. The animation alone is beautiful. How the animation transforms from bright and colourful to dark and grim, it's just so fascinating to watch. And the love story, it's done in such a fresh and interesting way. At number 7 is Whisper of the Heart. This is my favourite Ghibli film that doesn't rely on fantasy. It really excels on the complex of humanity by exploring it in a basic narrative way, which is great. But it's one of those one-of-a-kind films that deals with the wonder of adolescent uncertainty, which is quite fascinating to watch. At number 6 is Kiki's Delivery Service. Now, I love the story about this young girl who wants to be more in life, and Kiki is such a well-developed character. The process of who she is and what she wants to be and letting things go, we can all relate to that, and this is my favourite anime that involves witches. At number 5 is Princess Mononoke. Out of all the Ghibli films, this is the one that should be shown in school, whether it's film school or religious studies, because it deals with so many things. For one, it takes myths and legends from Japanese culture and ravels it to make this masterpiece. It deals with the themes of man versus nature, the cost of war, and the characters themselves aren't really good or evil, they're just doing what they think is right. At number 4 is My Neighbor Totoro. Now, a lot of people would say this is the most simplistic Studio Ghibli film. To me, it's more than that. It goes through themes of love and loss and how these two girls meet this fat, adorable Totoro. It's just so heartwarming. And these two girls have to deal with their mother and her illness whilst accepting this Totoro, these mythical creatures. It's so heartwarming, and also it's the great way to escape reality. At number 3 is Porco Rosso. This is such a fun film from beginning to end. And Porco Rosso is probably my favourite character in Studio Ghibli. He's just so fascinating. His passion to fly, his determination, his stubbornness. And Michael Keaton voicing him is so good. And I love the hidden messages. It's just so clever. War turns us into pigs. At number 2 is Grave of the Fireflies, the most darkest and heartbreaking Studio Ghibli film of all time. It's about these two children that struggle the survival of World War II in Japan. And I remember the first time I watched this film and I was astonished and I was moved to tears. Grave of the Fireflies to me, and for other people as well, is an anti-war statement. The true tragedy is also about these two children, what happens to them in the end. But it's also about that war can easily be prevented, if not for pride and stubbornness. So my favourite Studio Ghibli film of all time, and you guys probably know what it is, and that's Spirited Away, the only anime to actually win an Academy Award. Spirited Away is just so darn perfect that I struggle nitpicking this, and I can't give this film any more praise because everybody talks great things about this, especially for people who don't understand anime. It's not based on anything or influenced by anything, and the creativity alone is just so outstanding. That's how great Miyazaki is. The atmosphere is just so darn gorgeous to watch. The train sequence alone is probably one of the best movie scenes of all time. And a couple of years ago, I did a video called The Film Genre Tag, and I said Spirited Away is the perfect family movie. And today, I still stand by that. So Spirited Away isn't just the best Studio Ghibli film of all time, but it's one of my favourite films of all time. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Go like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what are your favourite Studio Ghibli films and what are your least favourite Studio Ghibli films. If you can list them all, please comment down below. I'd like to see them. Go check out my Facebook, my Twitter and my Instagram page. You guys are awesome. I've got your back.